Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. Welcome to Learning Live for the last day of January. And we have Marcie tonight. She is going to be sharing all kinds of amazing information on distress sprays, both in terms of oxide sprays, spray stains, what's the difference, what's her favorite, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to turn everything over to Marcie and away you go.
Hi, crafters. How's everybody doing tonight? Hi, Margaret. Hi, Diane. Hi, Donna. So tonight I'm going to be explaining the difference between the oxide spray stain and the oxide spray. So the spray stain is a dye ink and it's transparent. So it allows light through, but the stain is a very intense color and it really soaks into the cardstock. The oxide spray is a hybrid or fusion. A hybrid it's a pigment base, a pigment and dye combination, and it's opaque and it doesn't allow any light to pass through. So I just want to show you a sample of both of those on. I just have a book print and I sprayed, I should do it the other way around. This is the spray stain. And that is the oxide. So you can't really see the words through the oxide, but you can through the stain. They act differently on cardstock as well, depending on how you apply them. So this is, I just wanted to make sure, this is the oxide spray. So this is a spray when you spray directly onto the paper with no water, kind of has that real speckled look. And this is the same oxide colors that when spraying, you add water first and then you spray it on. So it really combines, it really mixes beautifully when it's wet on wet. But if you like that stenciled look, that stippled look, that's what the dry looks like. And this is the exact same sprays. This is the spray stains. So that's just spraying right directly onto the paper. This is the stains. I wet it first and then I added the colors to the cardstock. Just want to show that so everybody can see it. It's amazing how different they really are. The stain is a very intense color, whereas the oxide, and I have to admit, I lean more towards the oxide sprays because I love the chalky and opaque look that you get with it. I think Chris is more the spray stain, the really intense colors. Okay. So this spray oxide and stains act differently on different papers. This is the Vicki Boutin foundation paper. And this is just a craft, heavy craft. And you can see the difference. This is the stains on this side, and these are the oxides, which they seem to look pretty close, but it's more the stains that really are different and unique on each paper.
Marcie, just to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
What colors have you been using? So what color was that blue? What color was the blue and pink?
Yeah.
We just got a couple people asking.
I use the saltwater taffy and the uncharted mariner. So those are the two colors that I used for all those samples.
Thank you.
So there we go. Okay. All right, so there's so many different combinations and so many things that we can do with these sprays. What I want to show you first is, what I have here is I made my own little spray box. And if you're, actually, let me use just a solid piece of paper. I just want to show you up close and personal what it looks like when you're using the sprays. But before I get to that, what I want to remind you is with the pigment I'm trying to find one that I haven't shaken up yet. There we go. You can see on the bottom that there is the pigment on the bottom. There's a ball inside, and you have to mix. This is the Oxide spray, but don't shake it up and down. Shake it like a bell, side to side, until you can hear that ball shaking freely. Oops, just a little bit more, side to side. And always make sure that when you're using your Oxide inks, either leave the lid on when you shake it or put a piece of paper towel on top. Otherwise, you might just have quite the mess to contend with. And if your nozzle clogs up, what you can do is first spraying, cleaning the nozzle off is really good. You might have to take off the spray cap and soak it in some warm water for a little bit and then spray under the water. If that doesn't work, then you might have to replace the top. And they do sell replacement tops, but I've had my Oxide sprays since they first came out, and I honestly haven't had any problem with them yet. All right, so let's just show you. I like using the Distress Sprayer by Tim Holtz. You can get different amounts of spray. If you do it really hard, you'll get a lot of spray. But if you're just doing, I'll show you one here, just lightly, you can see you get splatters. So let's just add, this is saltwater taffy. Oh, sorry, that's my cat's hair. Let's add a little bit more to that. Okay, so let's add some of the spray. And this is I'm going to get the Oxide, the Uncharted Mariner. And it's just a beautiful combination. And if you want to do it like that, you can definitely heat it up like that. You can add a bit of spray if you want to mix it up a little bit more. I'm just going to grab my heat gun and heat it quickly. I'm just dabbing off the ends a little bit. And layering is always really nice with them. When you're layering and adding different colors, you really need to dry between the coats. Okay, it's still a little bit wet, but I'm going to go ahead with it. I'm going to use some of the spray stain and show how you can add just little bits of intense color to that as well. That was the saltwater, or sorry, that was the Uncharted Mariner stain. And this is the saltwater taffy stain. And if you want to add a little bit of water onto that, it becomes more intense on the colors. And then you would just continue layering, drying and then layering, drying and layering. So I just want to show you some ideas that I had with, well, some ideas with stencils. So what I'm using here is actually a watercolor paper. You can use Vicki Boutin's, the foundation paper. I have used heavy cardstock, but I find especially with the spray stains, it soaks in so much that you don't really get, it just sort of warps, and it's not the same as, and it doesn't spread as nicely as it does on foundations, or even the Tim Holtz cardstock as well is really good to use. I just have to find my stencil. So the stencil I am using is, I know it's a Gina K stencil. I just can't find the package for it. Hopefully, hopefully Sherry can tell you what this is. I had the packages set aside and now I don't know where I put them. Okay, so when it comes to sprays, the best thing to do, I mean, you can take this down if you wanted to. I just like to put some paper towel in here to soak up all the sprays. What I want to show you is when it comes to spraying, actually, I'm going to take that. There are different ways to spray. So if you spray close, you're going to get a real intense color and it's more solid. If you just do a little spray, oh, okay, that didn't work. There we go. And what I'm doing is I'm just pressing. I have my fingers on the other side and just pressing a little bit, and then you get sort of a splat. Now, another way to get your splats is also just with taking the lid out and adding bits onto there. And again, it does get messy, but what's the fun in being clean? And I want to clean it off nicely so that it doesn't go all over the place. Okay, let me show you now what I'm going to do with a stencil. Stencils, when you spray, if you spray too close, you'll get puddling under the stencil. So let me just show you. If you're doing it, you can hold it down, but if you spray too close, you'll get puddling, under the stencil. But if you, when you're spraying, if you move your hand, you'll get a more of a stippled spray and less chance of it bleeding underneath. And so this is actually, it didn't really puddle. I'm really surprised. And then this is more of like a stippled stencil look. Now, when it comes to this, you can actually take it and wet it a little bit more. And then you're going to put it on top of your paper. And then it's going to be, you just want to dab that, let the ink, or sorry, this is the Oxide spray. Let it sink in. Okay, let's see. Did I put enough water on? I didn't quite put enough water on, but you get the drift. It's really pretty. And if you dry that, you could probably spray some other colors on top. The other thing you want to do is take your stencil and put it straight into water. You don't want it to stain your stencils. Okay, let's move this out of the way. This is using the same stencil, and what I did is I sprayed, again with Oxide. Again, I always lean towards the Oxide than the spray stains, just because I like the look of that chalky sort of kind of pastel look. And what I did here is I sprayed with water. Then I sprayed my colors. I let that dry, and then I put a stencil down and I sprayed the Uncharted Mariner on top of it.
Marcie?
Yes?
We have a question from Lisa.
Okay.
She asks, do you ever use gesso on foundation paper before using the sprays and water?
You can. You definitely can. But you want I like when the sprays soak into, especially the stains, still soak into the paper. When you use gesso, it's like a primer on a page, like a primer on a wall. So it's not going to soak in as much as it would on an ungessoed surface. I think I might have, no, I don't have, sorry. I hope that answers your question. Now, this is something I really want to show you. This is like a rainbow effect, and I'm going to use the same stencil that I used there. Let's just do that.
Marcie,
and then,
sorry, you might just want to move your box a little bit to the left.
Perfect. Oh, is that better?
That's much better. And then up a little bit.
Up a little bit.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to have yellow. We're going to do, the nice thing is when you're doing colors, when you start off with your sprays, the colors the three top colors that you can use are the red, yellow, and blue. Those are the primary colors, and with those you can mix and create other colors. So you could make a green with the blue and the yellow. You can make an orange with the yellow and the red. So I'm just going to grab my red. And I've lost my red. Where's my red? We're getting there. It's there. Okay. It's not going to be a rainbow stencil. It's going to be something else. It is going to be yellow. We'll go with antique yellow linen. And let's go with some lighter colors. So let's go. We're going to use saltwater taffy. I have my red. I don't know where I put it. It was out here on my desk. I'm sure one of my cats walked off with it. Antique linen. And if you see, when you spray it, you can mix it. So then you get that sort of orangey color on top. And then I'm going to add, let's try the Uncharted Mariner. And again, this you can actually wet and put onto another piece of cardstock. And it's a very stippled look. But it doesn't bleed under the stencil, especially when you're spraying and you actually sort of flick your wrist and hold it a little ways away. Again, if you hold it, if you push the nozzle quite hard and it's close, it'll just, it'll puddle under the stencil. But you don't just have to use sprays through stencils. What you can do is, I need something in here. Where's my paper? There we go. I'm just going to add this in here. So let's try. Okay. I'm going to use it as a watercolor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush with water, and I'm actually just going to add water, grab some of the spray, and just dab it on. And then what you can do, oops, is you can just add a little bit of water to get sort of that, make it fade a little bit. And then you could dry that. And once it's dry, you can even add, actually, let's dry it quickly. And then, sorry, it's going to be noisy for a minute. Let's just dry quickly on the inside, because then you can actually, once it's dry, you can add a little bit more. Okay. Let's add a little bit more just on top. And it's a little bit more intense color. Okay, what I did with this is I took a stamp and then I just used white embossing powder and stamped it on the card. But I love the watercolor look. It just looks like it's tucked in behind a cloud. You could also use, you could just spray and use it as a spray resist as well. Just like this. And then you would let it dry, and then you could dab off the watercolor, or sorry, what remains. I'm just going to try to get some of that. This will come off with a wet wipe. But that's another idea you can do with your sprays. The other thing you can do is, let's try it with, this is an embossed surface. So I used an embossing folder. This is the, I don't know where I put any of my, oh, there they are. This is Leafy. Okay, this is Leafy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some greens. I'm going to try 2 different greens. I'm going to try to spray one side just so you can see the difference with water. I'm not sure how this is going to work. So I'm going to use Salvage Patina. And then I'm going to add a little bit of, what am I going to use? A little bit of, actually, I'm going to use a spray stain. This is one of the spray stains that I do use a lot of. It's Vintage Photo. And it just, it looks, makes it look really aged. Okay. So what I want to do with this one is I'm just going to show you how adding water on water, wet on wet, and this is dry on wet. And you can see the difference. It's going to, again, it's going to look more splattered on the one side when it's with the paper not being wet. Now, the one thing that you find that you can do with the 3D embossing folders is if you have a darker color, and if you add a little bit more water, you can see how it sort of bleeds down the sides. And then I would just heat that up and then add, you could add some splashes or anything that you like with that. The other thing you can do with the spray stains is you can use a background. You can make it into a background. So this is Uncharted Mariner, and I believe it's Salvage Patina. And when you spray, it's just a tiny amount. Where did I put it? You're just going to do a tiny amount on the bottom. This is Uncharted Mariner. This is going to be dry, but I want to add some water so that it blends in with the Salvage Patina. And then you see how it wicks. It just wicks and bleeds into each other, and it makes it a very soft background. Let me just dry that a little bit. You know what, let's set that aside for now. I want to show you one of my favorite combinations of sprays. It's a combination of spray stain and, let me see, where is it? So it's the Oxide Salvage Patina and the Vintage Salvage Spray. Now, I think I'm going to add a little bit of water onto it. Okay. And then I'm going to add some of this Salvage Patina. So this is the Oxide. And the Vintage Photo is the stain. And I just want to add a little bit of water just to mix it up a little bit. And then I want to dry that. Sorry, it's going to be loud again. And I'm just going to dab a little bit off because it does cool on the end. It's probably better if you had a little piece of paper towel and could dab it off. That's not bad. So now what I want to do is I'm going to add a few little taps of the stain. And then a few taps of the Oxide spray. Just a little bit. And then I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of water to get it to bleed a little bit more. Get sort of that oxidized All distressed oxides will react with water, and it's what they call an oxidized effect. Once I dry this, I'll show you how when you put water on top, once it's all dry, if you sprinkle water on top, you'll see the oxidization. That's a tongue twister for me. Yes, Ellen, I know salvage patina is my favorite one. No, Margaret, I don't think it changes. It just, especially, well, the oxide, it doesn't. The stain is still, let's see, I have one that is, let me see, where's my stain? No, I don't have my stain. Well, this is, so this stain, I actually, no, this one I let it dry, and this one I used the air embossing, sorry, the heat tool. Sorry, I have to start looking at the comments because I'm not paying attention. Now, to add some splatters, it should be a little more dry, but we're going to just dab a little bit off. If you take the sprayer and you pull it back just lightly, I'm going to do it on half of it, and we'll let that settle a couple of minutes to get the full oxidization, or you can add it into your hands and then flick it onto the paper, and my hands are all nice and blue. And you can see the oxidization happening. Just leave the water on there for a few more seconds, and then you can blot it off, and you'll see what I'm talking about when it's when I'm talking about the oxidization. Okay. And then let's just add a few more splatters because I like the dark splatters. Oops. There we go. And then this one. And there you go. So this is like a classic color combination, I think. Anyways, this is my favorite color combination of all time. Okay, so what I want to show you is how when you, so now I have some, oh, I have some stuff on there. So what I did is I have the font stamp that the store just brought in, and I'm going to spray with water. What I did is I heat embossed the saying in white embossing powder. And I am going to use the new color Lost Shadow. Do a little bit of Lost Shadow. Let's do something there too. And I'm going to do a little bit of, this is going to be Villainous Potion. This one's going to be, this one is intense, this color.
Are these all oxides, Marcie? Or
They are, yes, they are oxides. Most of them are oxides. Like I said, the one that I use the most is the Vintage Photo Distress Spray Stain. Again, I personally just love the way the oxides, the way they blend, the color, the lightness of them when they dry. I'm going to try Tattered Rose. Let's see. Okay. Let's just add a little bit more water, and then you can, now let's just put that a little bit. And then you can just keep on going. Dry the layer and then adding more ink on top. And this is great for a card front as well. If you have flower or heart dies, you could cut them out, put it on top, add some sprays, add some drips to it. I just love that. I love that combination. The next thing I want to show you is, this is like a 3-color combination. So what I did is, again, I did the white heat embossing, and then I watered it down and I used it as a watercolor. So I sprayed some on acetate, and then I used my brush and I just colored it down, and then I sprayed a little bit so that it sort of mixed into one another. The other thing that you can do is, so I wanted to show you the difference between the spray Oxide and the spray stain. So these are both I think this is my watercolor paper. And I did the same things. I added water, then I sprayed that. This is a stain, and this is the Oxide spray. Then I took the stencil and I put it down, and I grabbed a wet wipe through the stencil. I just have to see where my other stencils are. I put the stencil down. It's just over here. Hold on a second. It's pretty wet. Okay. So I put it down, and then I used a wet wipe to lift it up. And you can see the difference between the Oxide, how it really picks up, how it really moves the water around, whereas the stain, it's a little difficult to actually, because it really gets into the base of the cardstock and it stains it. Hence the reason it's spray stain. Okay. Now I'm just trying to think what else. Let's just move that out of the way. And the last thing I'd like to show you is, of course, you can use it on card fronts, but this is something I felt like doing the other day, and it fits in a 6x8. It's a mixed media. So I sprayed, let me see, the yellow is, so I used fossilized amber. I used these are all oxides. I used saltwater taffy, and I believe it's Uncharted Mariner. Sprayed that all down, dried it, did a few splatters, and then I just used what I had at home. So I had, this is a script from the store. This is another stamp. I took some white jelly roll and I just colored it in, add some splatters. And I mean, you could really, this is a Tim Holtz, one of his tiny little stencils. You could, sorry. What is something that we need to be careful about besides making mud when mixing colors? Okay, Ellen, when it's the wet on the dry, like don't soak your paper so much that it just becomes a mud. So you just want, here, let me do that. So you want it, so this is the spray stain, or sorry, this is the spray Oxide. So that's still a fair amount of water, but you don't want too much that it's going to run all over and it's going to become mud. So let's see this one. Oops. Now that's pretty good. That is the dry on wet. And if you wanted to add some water, just lightly add water. It's really just play at your own risk, I guess you could say. It can be unpredictable, but the results are absolutely stunning. You just have to practice and enjoy making this. It's so beautiful sending somebody a card with an oxide, with a background like this, with a sentiment on it, is quick, it's easy, and it's beautiful. I hope that everyone enjoyed this Learning Live tonight. I'll just put this back here. If anyone is interested in art journaling, let Sherry know. And I hope, are there any other questions that anyone would like to ask regarding the oxides and sprays?
Margaret's just asking, did you use warm or cool embossing powder?
What do you mean by warm or cool embossing powder? As in the color of the embossing powder? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Margaret, I think they were all heat embossing.
They're all heat embossing.
Using just a white embossing powder.
Yes, and like Donna said, it's all the color. Think of the color wheel. So warm colors go with warm colors, cool colors go with cool colors. Mixing certain colors or even three, will look like mud. So practicing on a piece of paper or on a piece of big cardstock, and just see how the colors interact with one another. Again, it's all about practice, and it's all about having fun and getting dirty.
Dale is asking, did all the samples you make tonight use foundation paper?
No, so I have a combination of foundation paper, and this is foundation paper. And then I used, where's my watercolor? So that's the foundation. That is this is the watercolor paper. This is foundation. I just tend to go more towards the watercolor paper because for me, it has the effect that I want. With the Vicky Bouton, with the foundations, you can add so much water, and then it just sort of seeps into the cardstock, and it takes a lot longer to dry.
I think it depends too on the look that you're trying to get. The foundations paper tends to be smoother. So when you're doing that embossing technique and that resist technique, you probably want something a bit smoother so it embosses cleanly. Whereas on the watercolor paper, there's generally more of a texture. Would you say that's fair?
Yes, that's fair. That absolutely. Yes. And you can see it's almost dry. So this was the wet on wet. So that was the vintage photo spray stain with the salvaged patina. So I wet it first, and then I moved it around. This was just spraying directly onto the paper. It's still a little bit wet, but it gives completely different. The spray stain and the oxide are two totally different. They're not different entities. It's just the spray stain is more intense, a very intense color. Whereas the oxide, when it dries, it becomes more like a chalky finish.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Marcie. That was lots of great little tips and tricks. Looks like from the comments you've inspired lots of people to crack out their sprays. And if you don't have any sprays in your collection, we do have a few different colors in the store, and we are in the process of restocking. Definitely there is that gorgeous brand new Lost Shadow, which just looks stunning with that purple. So yeah, get your stuff out and get playing, everyone. Any last comments, Marcie?
I just think, get out your paper, get out a cardboard box, some paper towel, and just enjoy, just play. All you need to do is play. It'll inspire you to make more cards, to do an art journal, to just mix color. Color makes you happy.
Especially on a gray winter day.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Good night, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you right back here tomorrow night for What's New.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.